This one goes out to the Artcasters. Ooh, Artcasters! I say you're catching your spell, Artcasters. Catching your spell. Ooh, you're gonna cast that spell. Strike the hell. Whoa! Ooh, hi, 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 hi.
The Artcasters, episode 443. We're back from Thanksgiving break, and so for this episode, we're going to do a quick kind of once around where we talk about things we're thankful for to catch up for like Thanksgiving break and just kind of catch up in general. Before we kind of get into all of that, let's make the rounds, let everybody know where they can find our stuff and stuff. So, and hi to Mydrin and Gary. And Mydrin beat Gary to good evening. And Gary's usually the first person in the chats to go good evening in kind of a creepy like good evening, gentlemen.
How do you know he's saying it like that, Josh?
It's because of his character from Luhan's cartoon. Yes. Oh wow, we got an ahoy mateys from Jim Luhan. I love it. Dylan's in the chats. How's it going? Welcome, guys. Welcome. All right. If you guys haven't yet hit subscribe down there, hit the bell so you get notifications when we're about to go live. This is my YouTube channel, so that's where you can find me. Also, if you like rock and roll music, I make rock and roll music that's pretty good, if I do say so myself, and it's on all streaming platforms under Joshua Kemble. I'm about 4 songs into an album, so make sure you're following me on those on music platforms, like any music streaming site. And you know, give some of these albums that I put out this year a listen, and then also support indie comics by buying 2 Stories or Jacob's Apartment, Slice of Life, and autobiographical goodness of indie. I was gonna say something else like goodness, but I'm exhausted, so I can't think of it. So I'll pass the mic to my my fellow MC over here, the CK, the Cory, the Kerr.
Yeah.
All right, Cory, where can everybody find your stuff? See, I was speaking in hip hop lingo because I'm so hip with the kids nowadays.
Yes, and I will also speak in the hip hop lingo, fellow youths. Yeah, you can catch my stuff at corykerr.com/rage. I've got the first 10 pages of my comic out. We'll probably be talking about that a little bit more. And I got another chapter of Heart of Eternity out, the novel that I'm writing. And all of that can be seen on my website, corykerr.com, or if you want to read the book or listen to the book or watch me read the book, there's lots of options. You can go to corykerr.com/book. And then if you want to read the comic, you can go to corykerr.com/rage. And yeah, so that's my stuff.
Awesome. I love it. And you guys should definitely check that stuff out. We'll be talking about it more, but it's good. Check out Cory's stuff. Scott, where can everybody find your stuff? Let's say I'm a big fan of the Joker or of, zombies and, Goonies meets Night. Let's say I want to see like the Skeleton Crew and I'm kind of into that genre of young kids on an adventure. What could I check out that you have that's kind of in that flavor?
Which, as a side, I'm digging Skeleton Crew. I've only seen the first 2 are out, and hopefully Disney doesn't mess it up because it's like perfect for me. I love it. Anyway, but if you like that kind of stuff, 80s adventure starring kids as the protagonist, imagine something like that, but with zombies. You can find my comic book Young and the Dead. It's a kids versus zombie adventure story. Just think Goonies meets Night of the Living Dead. That's available at my website, circlix.com. And also there you're going to find prints and my digital products, the tools and things to help you create comics better, faster, more efficiently. I also have wax packs based on movies and TV shows and stuff that they never made back in the days. and they're just like the very authentic, just like the original. You can find those on my website. So tons of stuff over there. And then as Josh alluded to, if you're a fan of the Joker or Harley Quinn, I just did a, you know what, I wonder if I should put that print up for sale. But anyway, I just did a print for Surprise Comics, and with that, I created a giant playing card with the Joker and Harley Quinn, double-sided, so it's got the design in the back and everything. It's really cool, and I show my whole process on YouTube, so you can check out that video on my YouTube channel.
I don't do this often, but I watched that video twice.
Oh, awesome! Yeah,
it was good.
Yeah, that was really fun to create. So. That video's up there, so as well as tons of other videos of me making cool nostalgic type products. And then of course, if you go back in the history, you're going to find things like Making Comics 101, which is the most comprehensive free course on how to make comics on YouTube or anywhere. So
I love it.
And also, you did call out Jim, and I just want to make sure that Jim is aware that next episode is 444. So I don't know if Cory reached out to you, but if you want that slot, you better reach out. So.
Yeah, and also, I mean, long watchers of the Artcasters will know the triplets are owned by Mr. Lujan. So if you're out there and you're a big fan of the Artcasters, you want to be on our show, I'm sorry, the triple dates like 444-333-222-111, those are all owned by Jim Lujan and will be in perpetuity. We signed a contract with him. So
and the nice part about that is because we do this once a week, it means we only have to actually talk to him every other year.
Yes,
so.
It's perfect. It's just the right level of Jim.
400 episodes, a year and a half. Is that what it takes us to get to 100 episodes?
Well, it's 52 weeks in a year, and we usually skip like Christmas and
Look at this man! Look at the math guy over here with the brain.
Not hard math.
It was hard for me. I'm so bad at math. I love anytime I'm stumped by an easy math equation. That's I just instantly become. Look at this guy! What's going on here with the math in the brain? How are you guys doing? How was break? How was your Thanksgiving? And what kind of projects are we? These are just general topics. I'm guessing we're going to ramble a lot, so we can kind of hit on any of these that touch or spark an interest. What are we currently working on? Like, what are we currently inspired about or thinking about? Yeah, like what have you guys been up to? So, what do you guys want to start with? I'm being a bad host and letting you choose.
I'll kick it off. I've been sick, so the Thanksgiving, we ended up staying home. So, we did our Costco Thanksgiving, where surprisingly Costco has pretty much everything you need already pre-made for Thanksgiving. So we went and picked that up, and then of course my family did drop by some of the homemade stuff afterwards. So, but that was pretty much mine. I was talking to Kevin because we're working on this project, and he's been sick, and not that I've been anywhere near Kevin's contract what he has, but it seems like I got the same thing because this thing just keeps on, hanging on. So
yeah.
You got a sauna, man.
Yeah. Yeah, well, my hot tub's not working. I couldn't get it to work, and I haven't had time to call somebody out to look at it. So,
yeah, I got sick. I got sick right before Thanksgiving, and 3 or 4 times in the 185 degrees, tossing the water on the rocks and burned it all out. It was good.
Yeah,
I'm just imagining in like a year, Cory becoming the modern Kellogg and having like this sauna resort where it's like this, kind of like it's
the
cure
answer to
for all ills. Yeah.
It's fun.
Oh man. Yeah. Jim very adamantly said 444 is mine, and I can tell he wanted to say it in that voice. So
is he twirling a black and white mustache?
Exactly. When he was hearing about the possibility of anyone else having those numbers, he put on his Monopoly Mr. Moneybags outfit and was like, "No, I dare say so." Yeah.
So yeah, for me, I finished up the next 5 pages of Rage of Enlightenment, and it was fun because I'm doing it in little chunks instead of doing it a page at a time, and so I think that's making it faster. So I'll thumbnail 5 or 6 pages, and then I'll pencil 5 or 6 pages, and then I'll ink 5 or 6 pages, and so it's really fun because at the end you finish like 5 pages in like 2 nights. You're like, holy crap, I'm on fire. But this one was cool because I set it. I'm playing with the rules of this world, right? And so I decided that the interiors of everybody's houses were gonna be like Leave It to Beaver, Mad Men kind of era. And so, but with like 80s technology.
I love that.
I'm mixing all the rules, and then the exterior of their houses has always been kind of medieval style cottages, but being overgrown by the jungle or by the forest. And so it was really fun because I've just got like this like bug in a smoking jacket reading the newspaper.
Yeah, that's my favorite panel of the whole thing is that he's got a pipe and like a jacket and he's just reading the newspaper like, your average like, late 1950s, early 60s dad. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, so that's been really entertaining to do. And I'm still trying to play with I'm trying to really avoid boring panel layouts, but still have it be very legible. And so I'm stacking them up. I had one page where it was just a TV, but then you see TVs start to stack around each other. But it's, anyway, hopefully it's legible, but it's fun. So doing that. And then I think because the universe saw that I was really enjoying myself, I got several clients and into a situation where I needed to say yes financially. So
yeah.
So I took a week off. Yeah, I took a week off, and I'm going to try to knock some stuff out. So I shot a commercial, edited the commercial. It looks good. Yeah, and so it's hard to make like professional ballet dancers look bad, and I did not do that. So they look good. And then I'm just finishing up some branding work, and unfortunately and fortunately, it looks like that project is gonna expand into like I'm gonna do some car wraps for his van and some t-shirt designs and stuff like that. So that's what you get for enjoying your comic, is you get work that makes it so you can't work on your comic. So anyway, but my plan is I've got the next chunk of pages written, and I'm hoping to kind of thumbnail those before next week so that I can get to some pencils and stuff in between. So yeah, and I don't know. I want to ask your guys' opinion. I don't know if doing both of these at the same time is hurting me, because I have almost no response to the chapter in Heart of Eternity that I dropped, when normally I get some. But it was in the middle. I was like, here's 5 pages of a comic, and then here's this audiobook chapter, and then here's 5 more pages, and everybody's talking about the comic, which is great. But I was like, oh, I kind of liked that chapter too. And I don't know. I don't know if I'm like killing myself in barraging my audience with all this stuff.
I don't know what your past experience was when you posted the story, but unfortunately, I think visual stuff just does way better. I realize there's a video attached to it and everything, but
yeah. And I normally have I at least get a few comments that let me know that, like people have received it.
Yeah.
But this was, I dropped it to like total radio silence, but I didn't do anything different. Whereas I got a lot better response to the comic, which I prefer the comic to the book.
I don't know, and I don't think I commented on that this time because we actually listened to that drop when we did I even mention that I went to Disneyland? I did on Josh's
No.
thing, so
Yeah, on
yeah,
Josh's
yeah,
thing, yeah.
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 So that it wasn't. I didn't get sick at Disneyland. I was starting to feel it before we went. But anyway, but I was so happy that the worst of it didn't come till after I got done with that day.
Yeah.
But we were on our way to California. We listened to the latest. Jim and I listened to the latest update on the story. So because we were in the car, I don't think I commented.
You know, Cory, that would actually be a guess of mine too, is that with the holidays and stuff, like if people even checked it out, they were probably all doing like weird family things and sneaking it in when they could. So I'm guessing you'll probably that would be my guess, because I think they're either doing that or like paying attention to like a Cyber Monday and yeah, all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
well, if you want to see what it's like to only be able to view people at the moment of their death, meaning that no matter what time in their life you're looking at them, you see them how they would die, then you should go listen to, read, or watch that chapter, because it was an interesting concept.
Dylan was saying, I love the idea of mixing time periods. I really want to make a movie or show with Victorian era everything except with modern technology. Hey, don't steal my Miami Vice Victorian era story, because this needs to happen.
There are a couple TV shows like that, and they're pretty good.
I think that's a great idea too. And Cory, I always like this about your projects, and I think more people should do this. It's like I think a lot of us do, where you're kind of finding things that you like to create and finding ways, like Joelle Jones type interiors, with pattern, and like being able to play with that, but then also have like all the organic like trees and like, because you like doing a lot of texture. And I think it's really cool to see so far, because you're picking things that interest you, and so that interest is inevitably going to like show in the work, I think.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you noticed. Hopefully it does show. So yeah, it's been fun, and I'm really happy with the pages. Also, I feel like it's and I mean, this is to be expected, but like the last time I did a long form comic was 11 years ago.
Yeah.
And that was when I was learning how to draw. And so I was doing really well to get like 1 page a week, penciled, inked, lettered, colored, and get it out. And I'm getting 2 or 3 pages a week now. And I feel like they're better pages. Like definitely the coloring is more intense and labor intensive. And the inking has leveled up quite a bit as well. So anyway, it's kind of interesting, but it's fun to kind of compare how much I used to suck compared to sucking less now.
No, but like, you know what? That's a good point though. Like not that you used to suck, because I disagree, but but the point being that I think for all of us as artists, this is very cliche and rote and stuff. It's like where people are like, you're not competing with anyone but yourself. But in a weird way, yeah, you do want to kind of see yourself advancing. And so, that can be really something to add momentum if you just look back at work from like a decade ago and see some of the progress. Because sometimes, like when we're in the thick of it, like, day by day, we don't see how much we're advancing. Yeah. But if you go back like to like your first comics or whatever, it's like that can be a good barometer. It's like almost like you started running marathons, and your first one's like the little local city marathon, and now you're doing that weird crazy run in Utah where everybody I think is not even running at that point. They're just self. What is it when you whip yourself?
Self-flagellation.
Yeah, exactly. So self-flagellating, but still, point being, if you're doing like these crazy marathons, you might feel like you don't really know you're doing them, and then you look back to like, oh, I remember when like running a block was hard. I think that's actually really good. Also, that output, I mean, 3 pages a week is pretty good, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm quite there.
Yeah.
Pretty
I mean,
impressive.
I think I did 10 pages in a little over a month. So
that's incredible.
Yeah. I don't know if I'll be able to maintain that pace because I had. I think it's one of those things where, as I've been prepping, like as I've been doing character design and writing the stuff, like I've been thinking about how these first few pages would go, and so there wasn't a lot of like iteration in the roughs or thumbs. You know, it was kind of like I knew how quite a few of these pages would lay out before do that. And then we've got, you know, Christopher Runciman, and he's like 3 pages a week, man. I do a couple pages a day.
Yeah. That's wild.
So yeah. Jim had a question.
Yes, I think it's a good question too. It's on theme. So he said, what artistically or technically is working in your life right now and something you're thankful for? And he says audience participation.
And Gary answered him and said, still early, working on pages 8 or 9 right now, but I'm thankful drawing the latest Dinosaurs versus Mars bots is going well, and I'm keeping my head above water.
Nice. I also like Frank's contribution here where he said, giving thanks, Christmas spirit, bah humbug. Yeah, so I love that. Let's see, what artistically or technically is working in your life right now? That's a really good question. I'm going to stew on that for a second. You guys,
I'll say the coloring of this comic is working really well for me. I figured out a way that I think makes it really fast, and I'm almost able to skip the flatting phase in the way that I'm doing it. And so it ends up kind of painterly and is faster than if I were to like flat everything. And so anyway, so that's working. So you can kind of see kind of the patterns and the textures that are kind of in there.
Yeah.
This one doesn't have as many, but it does have the pattern in the background. So that's what's working technically for me, and I guess also artistically.
Yeah, and I'm liking the it's funny because it has a lot of variety, but also there's a very conscious minimal palette that you're using, and I love that too.
Right. Yep.
It's just got a vibe. Can you show everyone my there we go. You got to zoom in right there, middle panel, best panel in the whole book.
And I did the thing. Do you remember when I used to draw even things that were so small with such detail that you could zoom in like 16,000% and stuff? Yeah. These are just loose, crappy characters back in here. That they no planning at all. I inked them in both of them in about 30 seconds. So
that's good.
Maybe faster. Yeah. But I mean, you know, coming in and kind of like roughing this up and then relying really heavily on like the brush or different brushes that I'm using. I mean, I did go in and actually draw each leaf. But then I would go in and kind of black out major areas with just kind of like textures and fingerprints. And anyway, so yeah, I mean, like this pattern, like I built this pattern in Illustrator. It took me about 90 minutes to really dial it in the way that I wanted to. But I was able to like block in large spots of these panels with that pattern over and over and over again. And so it ended up paying off because then you just, you know, throw some kind of paint texture on there and a radial gradient and you're done.
Yeah, I love it. So. And
Yeah.
it really adds. I love that the addition of things like wallpaper and like different textures to the wood frames and stuff is really fun to look at.
Yeah.
You guys should check this comic out if you haven't.
Yeah. So,
Chris said I can. Oh wait, what was going on? Frank said beans make me self-flagellate. Christopher said I can tell all the way from here. And then what was Christopher also said looking good, Cory. Dylan was saying I love the colors. Dylan said I'm thankful for the people who were my blood-sucking sacrifices. And Frank said the supermodel I'm dating is working my life just fine. By supermodel I mean D&D miniatures, and by dating I mean buying.
Right.
I feel like. And then did we read Gary's comment of what he's thankful for?
yeah, he said he's
Yeah.
happy that the pages he's working on are working.
These are beautiful pages, Cory.
Oh, thanks.
This
is the first one I did, and I went back after doing 2 or 3 more and redid it because it was like too clean. So like I had drawn in all of these houses and everything in this part, and you can see some remnants of some of those rooftops and stuff down in here. And then I just went in and just trashed everything and roughed it all up and scraped a bunch of it off, and it looks a lot better. So
I love that, and I think that's a good example too for people of in art. If you're too fragile sometimes or too precious, sometimes it is good to just scrap it up and make it like rough and textured. It I think it actually, that's one of my favorite things on that page. Is that all that texture in the background is great.
And then what's a story where you don't get to draw large piles of poop? I mean,
you're right. The classics. Like we rewatched Jurassic Park, the first one, recently.
Oh yeah, where they're digging into the poop, right?
Yeah, it really would have been like, I'd say like about half as good without the giant pile of poop.
You got to have the giant pile of poop. It's important. So yeah. Anyway, I'm trying to figure out a way. I got some feedback from a couple of people who are reading this, and they're like, I wanted to zoom in. So I'm trying to figure out the best way to show some of this detail for those that care without overwhelming the people that don't. But
yeah,
anyway, I'm really enjoying putting weird colors and like opposing colors into stuff. So if I've got a bunch of warm desaturated tones, I'll like toss in really highly saturated cool tones into there. So like this is like a warmer, like desaturated orange for the brown. And then I throw in these like teals and greens to just make it like weird. So anyway, it's fun.
It's great.
Yeah.
They're looking great. And they flow well. Like I think you're managing that balance well, because there's always that struggle with paneling that's kind of breaking outside the box. Sometimes it suffers readability.
Right.
But I didn't experience that at all with this. Like, I feel like it flows it's easy to follow. And yet still kind of using more dynamic paneling and stuff, which I think is great.
Fun.
That's a straight Chris Ware style angle there.
Oh yeah. Just straight on through a door.
Love it.
So, cool. Let's stop talking about my thing now and start talking about something else.
Well, no, so I think that's great. I don't have a lot pulled up to show, but I'm making slow and steady progress through Not Death But Love, the strange supernatural story of Elizabeth Barrett Browning. I've been gifted the last few pages that I'm working on and roughing right now are all taking place in I just realized I was hovering over something and getting a notification that I don't need to see. But yeah, like I feel like I'm making progress, and I feel like I was gifted by finally having a background that was pretty simple. Like it was just like a park with like the Coliseum in the background, but it's just like a few pillars of it. So it's like pretty.
I feel like you've spent a year having to render really complicated architecture.
Yeah, so I was
panel.
glad. Yeah, I was glad not to have it be like an opera house with a crowd, or like or like a bunch of carts being pulled by oxen up giant mountains with
or
people
even
riding
just,
horses.
Even just that whole series where they were inside the apartment. There's like bookshelves and there's perspective and yeah.
So it was a nice break to have just like a field where I was like, oh, I can knock these pages out quick. So that's been good. I'm making progress on the music too, so that's been pretty fun. Is like kind of trying to just show up and be happy with the little sections that I get, and then I'll kind of spam you guys with music as it's evolving. And some of that's just for me as well, just to kind of like be like, I want to share consciously to make sure I'm making like progress, right? But so that's been really cool. And then I've been really enjoying teaching art again. I think if you're meant to teach, there's like a weird fulfillment in it that I haven't experienced for a long time. And this year I've been experiencing a lot. It's been really fun. It's always like really inspiring to see and inspire artists to kind of like make cool stuff. And to be a part of like trying to ignite that or like help them unlock being able, like Cory, you and I were just talking about this before we were streaming, where there's this thing that it can be frustrating when you're teaching art, because a lot of learning art is learning how to see, right? Like you're learning value and stuff like that. It's like being able to even see the values that are in front of you or the shapes that are in front of you requires a different amount of analysis than you're usually looking at the world with. But when it does unlock, or like you get these little glimpses of that unlocking for somebody and you're kind of helping them get there, it's very fulfilling. So that's been completely cool. And that's kind of where I'm at for like projects and stuff. But slow and steady progress. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy here, but I feel like that's something a lot of people miss. And I'll miss too, is like that it's very frustrating sometimes how slow projects can go. Mm-hmm. But it all adds up very quickly. If you kind of keep showing up and letting kind of the muse do its thing, when you show up. So I've been taking joy in that, like the fact that I've managed to remain fairly consistent with showing up for that stuff. Because I think a lot of people's struggle is just being okay with, like, if one day you've got 15 minutes, you've got 15 minutes, And I think some people have trouble, like, just being okay with, like, well, at least I got in the 15 minutes. You know what I mean? Right. And I'm getting more comfortable with, like, finding these windows to kind of get a lot done and use that time and also enjoy the process a little more. So I've been hating making comics less.
That's good.
But I've been really inspired by like Cory, like your output and Scott's output and stuff. And I think if we're gonna kind of start segueing into things we're thankful for, that to me is like a huge one. I'm extremely thankful for having a community of artists that I'm friends with, and that we all kind of share stuff we're working on. Like we have like a couple of group chats going. We got the Crestline group as well. And I'm really thankful for groups of fellow creatives that are kind of in it, in the fight, because it definitely gives me fuel to kind of like keep making cool stuff. So that's kind of my long-winded thing. Yeah. What about you guys? What are some things you're thankful for? Cory, you were kind of chiming in. Yeah.
I was wondering if Scott answered Jim's question.
I don't think Scott got on that. So
no. So I mean, let's see. So what was the first part as far as what breakthroughs, or
just what's working artistically or technically right now for you?
Yeah, I mean, well, first I feel like I'm kind of in the same spot. Same spot that Cory is, as far as I've got all this. I'm so fortunate right now that I've got just tons of work, but it is taking me away from my personal project, even though the work I'm doing right now is really fun because it's comics and everything like that. But it's to the point where like I haven't put up any Christmas decorations or anything. It's just taking up so much time, and I'm like, and I just need to try to get to a kind of catch up to a point. But and part of that was coming off of being sick and things like that. But yeah, I mean, it is nice to get to be at a point where, you know, I've got plenty of work, I'm keeping busy, and it's kind of a good problem to have. And as far as kind of what's working, I mean, that's definitely working. And anytime I get, you know, a big comic project like that, I don't know, it just, because I'm unlike like Josh, and well, Cory's kind of getting there now, but Josh is kind of constantly always working on comics, always drawing, where, you know, there's days that I don't draw where I'm doing other creative stuff, like either editing videos or whatever, you know, or putting together my wax packs, or just all kinds of other stuff that I do on the side, or graphic design or whatever. So it's really nice when I get a chance to actually illustrate, because obviously that's illustration and comics are my first love. So yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with this, and I'm digging, you know, I'm digging what's coming out and everything like that. So yeah,
it's beautiful. It's kind of cool that you know, that project came up, and that it's also enabling you to be able to work with, you know, some peers and friends.
Yeah.
On a comic project is a really cool gift as well, right? Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it is really cool, and you know, I'm hoping I get more opportunities to do that, and it's cool to not only be an artist on this book, but you know, get to write it, and get to build a team, get to art direct it, and it kind of reinforces that, you know, I've kind of had a little bit of what's the phrase, as far as why can't I think of it? As far as my doubting my abilities of being an art director.
Oh, imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome. Yes. So yeah, and when I see stuff like that come together, it's just reassuring in that department. So
yeah, I feel like you know, I think Cory has talked about this too. This always happens before I teach. It happened this year too, before teaching, you know, like going into teaching high school and stuff. I had that kind of typical teacher thing of being like, am I really worthy to teach? Like, do I really have something to teach? And then you start teaching and you realize, like, wow, I've accrued like a lot of knowledge. When you get in the act of doing it, you start realizing how much knowledge you've accrued. And weirdly enough, just in, you know, kind of maybe the friend group we have, like we have a lot of really creative, intelligent art friends. And so it's like, you can almost forget that there's a lot of this that we've accrued over years, you know, because Scott, like thinking about it, you know, I mean, you're a veteran, man. you've been doing this a while, you know, you've picked up some tricks.
Yeah, and really, you know, honestly, it shouldn't surprise me because I have been doing this the majority of my life. So
yeah,
you know, but you still sometimes, if it's not something you do all the time, it's like, oh, you know, is this in my wheelhouse? But
yeah. I think that's the cool thing though, because like if you were like, when you were mentioning the project, I had no doubts you're gonna rock it, because it's like, well, I mean, you know, eat, sleep, and breathe design, illustration, like the formal elements and stuff. So of course you can lead groups, you know, like to do this stuff. Yeah. Dylan said, I get that you sometimes have to be in this specific situation and unlock the knowledge and wisdom you have. Well, and I think I think that's how imposter syndrome works. Cory could expound on that a little more because he's more familiar with like the specifics. But the one understanding I have of it is, I do think it's like, kind of like if you read a lot of books, you kind of realize how many books you haven't read. Like, because the more you get into reading, the more you start finding out, like, there is just like a wealth of books, to the point where if I were to read like a book a day, I'd never even touch like the surface of like the amount of knowledge and stuff that's out there in books. I wouldn't know that when I was young and I was starting to read books. Like the shelf builds bigger as you like read more. And I feel like it's the same thing. Like the better you get at art, the more you realize like your limitations and the paths you have to go. So I think it's easy to forget. Like Cory was saying too, where he's feeling good about his comic, but like part of that was only in comparing to older comics, because it's like when you're in the current moment, it's hard to know the progress. I don't know. Cory, you could probably word it better, but
yeah, well, part of what you're talking about is called Dunning-Kruger.
Right.
And yeah, Dunning-Kruger is the less you know about something, the more confident you are in that thing. Right. And so that's why you have people taking like Psych 101 and all of a sudden they're like diagnosing all of their roommates and their family. And, it's like
everyone's a narcissist. Everyone, everyone on the planet. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like everybody is. It's like, yeah. No, okay. But so that's, or it's like everybody who takes the basic design class.
Yeah.
All of a sudden they've got very strong opinions about fonts. And it's like, no, you don't. Like, maybe you'll get there someday, but like, stop walking around town and telling everybody their poster looks terrible because you still can't design crap, So that's Dunning-Kruger, right? Is it's like the less you know about something, the more confident you are in that thing. Imposter syndrome is at the other end of the scale, where the more you know about something, the more you know what you don't know, because you now understand enough to understand the nuance.
Yeah.
I explain it this way. Let's do the most boring thing we can do on the internet and let's whiteboard this.
Let's absolutely do it. And let's solo the whiteboard. All right. Boom. Whiteboard. This is what I live for, Cory. These are moments I treasure on Artcasters.
So this is Dunning-Kruger. So if this here is knowledge, no, this is confidence, right? So we'll put C for confidence, and our x-axis is going to be knowledge, okay, and skills, okay. And so at the beginning, we'll say that the red line is what you can do.
Wait, I have to interject with Dylan's comment. He said teaching Cory has entered the chat.
Yes,
okay, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so this is your skills and abilities. Okay, and then you go like this, and I just realized my X and Y axis don't make sense. But this is the green is your confidence. I got to go darker, or it's not gonna make any sense. Okay, so you go like this, like that, and then right at the end, they kind of meet. So this section right here is where you are massively more confident than you're writing to build an old, or to use an old phrase, you're writing checks your body can't cash. You know what I mean? Like you can't follow through. It's the Chihuahua who's like barking really loud. Like you don't have the ability to back up your confidence, right? But then once you get into this category, you start to recognize what you don't know, but it's actually because you know more. So this portion, this is imposter syndrome, where you start to feel like an imposter. And this section is Dunning-Kruger.
Yeah.
And then what's nice is every once in a while, and I feel like I'm hitting this right now, every once in a while you'll slip into this category.
Yeah.
Where your skills and your confidence align, and you understand that it's okay to like know that you're good at this, and that there's nothing wrong with that. And it's be like, I freaking nailed that page, man. Like I don't think I nailed every one of those 10 pages, but like, I think more than half of them, I look at them and I'm like, I just freaking killed it. And it's like, it's an interesting place to be, having spent most of the last 12 years solidly in this imposter syndrome situation. But the nice thing about imposter syndrome is the further to the right that you move with your skills and abilities, the more likely you are to be disappointed in your output, which actually means that the more you hate your work, the more likely you're not to be experiencing this like beginning Dunning-Kruger situation. The other one that I draw is this. So at the very beginning, you're standing here like this, and you look at people that are ahead of you, and you can break down their work. And there's all these people that are so much better than you, right? And you see this gap. And so you ask yourself, what are they doing that I'm not doing? What am I not doing? Or what are they not doing that I am doing? And as you invert those, you start moving down this. But the cool part about this is as you move here, now you're standing here, you realize that there's actually people that are further over here, and there's people that are further here, and there's people that are further here. But you can't tell the difference until you move forward. So you can only see about that far ahead. And then, so as you're moving to the right in your skills, your ability to comprehend the difference between professional work as a gradient, as a range, as a wedge, increases. And so, like at the very beginning, you get a lot of people that are freshmen in college, and they're like, I tell them, go find professional work and reverse engineer it. And they bring me the stuff, and it's like, that's technically professional, but it is garbage, you know? And it's like, that's the difference between making $25,000 a year and making $85,000 a year is moving further down this line so that these people in front of you start to spread out, and you start to tell the difference between, you know, inking styles and the difference between design. And you see past things like style, and you start seeing like the nuances of like page layout and, you know, and pose and the underlying things that are underneath, like the shiny paint that everybody uses to cover up their mistakes. Once you can start seeing that stuff, it actually means you will feel worse about what you're producing because you can see the differences and the nuances because you're further down that road.
That's such a perfect way of kind of putting it, because it's like and in a weird way, it's like to get started in this thing, it might be helpful to have a bit of Dunning-Kruger, because like you know, if you guys think back to the graph Cory was drawing, just to be delusional enough to think you can like is really important to start. Right. But then it's like, the more you kind of accrue this knowledge, like the less you realize you do know. But I kind of feel what you're saying, Cory, because like I've been finding that I think part of why, kind of touching on Jim's question, again, part of why I feel like things are working right now is I feel like I have had a year of really feeling those two meet, like feeling secure in what I'm doing and challenged and aware of where I am, like, but pretty happy with where I am. Like there's mistakes, there's things I need to fix. I definitely see a path where I could advance, but it's like, I don't feel like a fraud, you know, which is a nice feeling. But I also don't feel like an expert. It's a good place to be. But it is kind of also that weird thing where when I used to teach college, I'd always tell kids, like, you know, every person in this classroom was the best artist in their high school. Like, welcome. Like, it's not, it's like you've moved to a larger ocean, you know, and when you get out of college, it's an even bigger ocean, and you start realizing there are some fish that are so big you may not ever even see them because you're never going to get there. Like I
think out of college is both bigger and smaller.
Yes,
because one of the things that I find really interesting is everybody's like, oh, you know, and they start the seniors in college, they're about to graduate, they start to realize that they're going to need to compete, and I always tell them, I'm like, hey guys, you need to understand, you're not competing with me.
Yeah.
No one who is hiring me is going to hire you. And that's not bad. That just means like, you're not, I'm twice your age. I've been doing this professionally for as long as you've been alive. Like you're competing with other people who just graduated, you know, you're competing with people who have been out of the industry for 3 to 5 years. You're not competing with the people who have been out here for 15 to 20 to 25, 35 years. That's a different current.
It's a league. It's a different league. Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, like in competition, also there's an advantage that a young person, like a new athlete has, right? So there's definitely an advantage there where there's going to be an in touchness with like a certain culture that we're not necessarily going to even come close to understanding.
Sure.
And newer styles and fresher approaches that maybe like people who are less embedded are going to be able to see. So, it's not necessarily bad like that they're competing, but you're right. Like there's kind of a different league. Yeah, I agree. That's a good way to put it. But at the same time, there's all like as an artist, there's always going to be a white whale artist that you're chasing the skill wise. And like I love, Cory, that diagram, because you're right. When you finally get the whale, you suddenly see the one you were really chasing, which is like 40 miles away. It's
and the cool part about it, about that I want to animate that someday because it makes in my mind it moves. But the cool part about it is you don't realize it, but as you're closing that gap, you're moving forward.
Yeah.
You've now become the person where people behind you are now looking at you and going, oh my gosh. Whereas you still feel like, I think Mydron was saying like, I must be very good. I have no confidence. I don't know where you are now, but like wherever you are, there's people behind you that are looking at you and going, holy crap, I hope I could get there someday. And they're analyzing your work and trying to figure out as you're analyzing the work ahead of you. And then, so it's like this infinite escalator, not infinite, I guess at the end of it, everybody dies, but like, you're moving
Happy
forward.
Thanksgiving, everyone. Well, post Thanksgiving, everyone's gonna die.
Everyone's gonna die. Since this journey that we're on is endless, it's more like a death march. No, but like
feel positive, guys, because we're all doomed.
Yeah. As you move forward, you're getting better, and the people that you're looking at are hopefully getting better. And then if they're not, you'll start looking past them. Right. At other people that are also better than you are. But sometimes it's interesting to me because I don't often think, I've only been drawing now for 12 years. Right. So I started drawing at 32 and I did that 10-year experiment. I said, hey, I'm going to spend 10 to 15 hours a week doing this for 10 years and I'll see if I like where I ended up.
Yeah.
And I never thought, and I don't think there's many people that are looking at my stuff and like, oh my gosh, but there's some. And that never occurred to me. I was always focused on me getting better and chasing after people who are better than me. It never occurred to me that as I was doing that, I would become the one that other people are looking at. Right. And then they would become the one that other people are looking at. And then they would become, so there's this ongoing chain of people getting on that escalator.
And ironically, too, like it's easy to miss that because we're so prone as people to miss any positive feedback. Like you could hear 20 people tell you that's a beautiful drawing and one person go, well, that sucks. Or one person who just could care less. And you're like going to pay attention to those two people with negativity over any of the positive because like that's like the thing that sinks in generally with just like people. So it makes sense that on your journey, you'll not realize, as there's like more and more people kind of looking towards your work. Yeah.
Dylan says seeing Cory running after people would be scary. And Christopher says there are far less people to the left of me asking, how does he do that? And more saying, why does he do that? My mom thinks I'm awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, it's fun. I don't know. It's cool to think about all that type of stuff.
No, it is
progress and stuff, but
and I think it's important to occasionally like catch ourselves, like I guess keeping with like the thanks theme. I think it's important for us to every once in a while in this weird journey that is art, to kind of catch those little milestones of like advancement, because I think we can lose sight of it, especially being like I was just telling Scott, he was saying it's cool to know that I like what I already knew but I doubted, which is I can direct people, I have this knowledge accrued and stuff. It's easy for people who are veterans at this to like I don't know, you've been fighting war so long you forget that you can like you kind of forget your skills that you've accrued. And so I do think it's really important to kind of stop and be almost like thankful of the things we've been able to accrue, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Because I don't even remember, like, one thing that's been fun about teaching high school is there's a point, like, even pre-college, where just the idea of a value scale in general, like 1 being the lightest, 5 being the darkest, there's a 5-point value scale. Just that and being able to see it around you is hard. Like, just being able to differentiate value is something we had to learn at some point. And it's not that long. Like, so I think that's really interesting to see, because once you gain sight for that kind of thing, it's easy to forget what it was like to be blind. And as we go into this more and more, we're like less blind. Yeah, and you really don't realize it till you talk to some people who are still blind, and you're like, oh, like I can see that, and you could see it too, but we just got to teach you how. Yeah,
another thing along those lines. This most recent chapter, I think, has one of my favorite lines I've ever written in it, and I came up with the concept for this line before I started writing chapter 1, but I don't think I was good enough to pull it off. And then and I pulled it off, and I think it works really well. Anyway, it was just kind of like, you know, so some of that growth can happen in a really short period of time too.
Oh yeah.
Because I haven't written a lot, but I've written a few thousand, I don't know, probably a few thousand words. I don't know. I don't really count them, but each one is about 10 minutes of reading. So, you know, I've got 120 minutes of reading in there out loud. So whatever that correlates to, but like, I think it works. And I want to issue a challenge to anybody listening. Go look at chapter 12 and see if you can pick out the line that I'm talking about. Because I'm curious if it like stands out like a sore thumb, or if it's hard to find, because I want it to be good, but I don't want it to be like, oh, okay, he's built the entire chapter around saying this one thing.
What, like the title of the story is the line, and then you look at the camera.
Hey. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Anyway. It's like the tagline, you know, it's Flo serving at the cafe and turning the camera. Well, kiss my grits. And you're like, I didn't see that being in a Cory Kerr piece. I'm excited about the progress you're making on the comic. I think the output you have has been really good. I hope that when you return, you'll be able to get back in that flow of momentum, and I think you will. Yeah. I think it's cool that we're getting work. I've been drawing robots too for money. That's been fun. That same client keeps coming back, and I love them to death, because drawing vintage robots, you know, for a 2-color book cover for decent pay is like pretty fun side cash.
Is that something you can show, or you have shown, or?
The company's called No Starch Press, so I've done a bunch of covers for them. You can see some of them online, but it's like a retro, very easy robot to draw and really fun. A lot of vector work, but still, I like drawing vintage robots. So it's fun when somebody says, "Hey, can you draw a robot?" Like right now, I have 2 roughs pending. We finally went through a couple minor revisions, and it's like a robot listening to a radio, and like. How fun is that? I don't know. I love that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's I'm very thankful for the newer, less crazy commutes. So
is this it?
That's not the one I drew, but yes, that is the company. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, there's like they put out a lot of books. They do like hacking books and programming books and stuff, but they're a fun client. Yeah, so overall, let's see, how else can we tie thanks into this? What are you thankful to have learned as an artist that you feel like maybe like 5 years ago you didn't understand?
Ooh. I need some time to
what I learned as an artist.
like a more recent acquisition of knowledge that you're very thankful for? That's a tough one.
I don't know. I don't know how to articulate most of it.
Yeah, give it a shot. Give it struggle through it. Make it happen. I think if you can articulate it.
It's little tiny things. So I've been buying pages. I've been buying original art for a while, but
yeah, you've accrued like quite a significant collection since we started hanging out. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've recently started buying from artists I don't know, and it's like on heritage auctions. And I'm going just off of like, you know, what, let me turn on my document camera here, but I'm like, what could I learn from, you know, these pages? And so one of the things I've noticed, and this is going to sound really weird. I don't know, but it's like, let me switch over here. Where's the page? I haven't framed this one yet. These two just came. That button. And that's way too zoomed in. But like, so this is a big giant kind of war scene, right? Or whatever. But like, if you look at this guy's mouth, his teeth don't make sense. And they didn't finish coloring in the mustache. And there's a line that goes from the bottom of the nose that starts to just become the shadow of the upper lip.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting to see a lot of these. I've been looking at these. The looseness of the inking is so awesome because you know, a lot of this you're just like the imperfection of it is what adds a little bit of the action of what's going on.
Yeah.
And you know, younger artist Cory would have gone in and done whiteout and tried to fix it and tried to make it perfect and, you know, but it's like there's some value to going in and just being like, that's the line I threw down. You know, I was in the moment and that line's staying.
Yeah, and weirdly, also those look like byproducts of a lot of shortcuts, like good
Right.
shortcuts, like cartoony like intelligent ones, you know, like because even that lip line, I know why that happened, because it's, you know, he's thinking about the structure right there where it's like there's a plane that he's following, and then he's connecting it to the plane of the lip, so he's kind of mapping the plane, he's not mapping the line, but he's mapping the form using a quick shorthand line, and then probably just accidentally overdid it a little, you know, like, that's brilliant. That's beautiful. Yeah.
Anyway,
but the way he did the gesture, can you go back to those background figures? Hold on. Let me make this big so people can see it.
These guys
look at those, like just those little background guys on the right, like, that's where you can see like this artist's skill. Like they definitely are pretty good. You know?
Well, and he does that a lot. Like you can see these guys right here. This is inverted from what I'm looking at, so it's a little weird.
I like the gesture of there's really a good knowledge of weight too.
Yeah.
Wow. That's inspiring, man.
Yeah.
Is that ink wash?
Yeah, I think it's marker.
Okay.
So yeah, there are some tonal kind of grays in there.
Yeah, I love it. That's a cool page.
And I love the older stuff because the lettering is right on the page. But anyway, this is the one that just came.
Whew.
It's pretty cool, and you can see the different. So like that's one thing that I've kind of picked up from kind of looking at a lot of these is just. Like you look at a lot of the older Conan, the Barbarian stuff, and a lot of that type of stuff, and a lot of it is just really loose, but you can tell that they've got a really solid understanding of anatomy because they're not just like doing what they did in the 80s and 90s where they're just inventing muscles that don't exist. But like the bulk makes sense, but it's also not like an anatomical like drawing. It's not like it belongs in a textbook, you know? And so anyway, there's some stuff with like what I'm doing right now where I'm like, I'm going to scribble this character in because he's flying really fast. And so I don't care, you know,
Yeah.
if I'm wrong. I want to get the emotion of it down more than the accuracy of it.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, part of that is I'm drawing bugs. Nobody's really sure what they look like anyway. So that helps.
I think you're drawing bugs very well. Dylan said the more artists you sacrifice at the art retreat, the better your art skills become.
That makes sense.
I like that. That would explain why we all tripled up and why Jim and the Making Comics fellas haven't been seen since.
Yeah.
But we're all so much better at drawing. I don't know how. What about you, Scott? Like anything you've kind of picked up that you're thankful for?
As far as
I don't know, just art related.
Yeah, but we were
lesson.
I think something that I've been doing, something I've been kind of figuring out lately is just a lot more like shipping and running, because I've kind of, with these wax packs, I've kind of started a whole separate kind of side business. And where it's been a while since, and even when if I've ever done prints or whatever, I'd sell one here, one there, or whatever. But these things move pretty well. So it's a lot of keeping up with like production, figuring out, okay, how long does it take to make a pack? What's the cost? All this stuff, make sure that, that there's definitely a profit involved, and getting that down to a point where I can do them relatively quickly and shipping. And I've kind of got, I invested in some shipping stuff. Like I got the label printer, which is, if you do any amount of shipping, these label printers are amazing. Everyone always told me you got to get one of these label printers, but until I got one, for one, it's like it prints in an instant. I mean, it takes us like a second, almost a second or less for it to print. It's just boom, you print and it pops out. I don't know how it works, some thermal technology or whatever, but so that's sped up. And then I'm using Pirate Ship, which if you do shipping, definitely do Pirate Ship. I mean, everything I ship, I probably save like about $1, which I can which that adds to, the profitability, because, I save like $1 with the post office charges. And so I live like super close, within almost walking distance to a post office. And it is so busy there.
Yeah.
And to be able to print that stuff, pay for it through the app, go in there and walk past this long line of people, especially now at the holidays, and just drop that in the little bin. I haven't had to stay. I used to hate going to that post office because it's like there's a couple maybe post offices, and Surprise is the big one, and it's always packed. And so and I think if I get to a certain point, I can probably have them pick up the packages and just have them bring those. But it's kind of cool.
Out of curiosity, you invested in a scale too, right?
I've always had a scale, because that I've used. But so I've got the scale, all that stuff. But just
great,
doing it enough where now it's like super. And I usually try to ship within a day or so, just because, like I said, it's so convenient with the post office right there and everything. So it's just it's really I've really learned how to kind of keep the production on what is pretty much a separate kind of company in itself. Than all the other stuff that I'm doing, and trying to get more products up there. And that's another thing with all this thing right now. I'd like to, because there's no reason not to 10x this thing, because if they're selling, if I can get more cards out there, then but I haven't had any time. I think maybe 3 weeks ago I put up a couple new packs, but I've got so many ideas that I want to do. So, but it's kind of cool just to have this other business and everything, because something that that I preach about, and is having multiple legs under the table, because
Yep.
you never know. Because I like certain things, like my digital products, they've just been around so long, that like I have some vendors that just were, at one point I was getting like $500 a month or so from them, and now it's down to like 25. But then new marketplaces open up, and then I get things from there. So
Yeah.
but and creating more digital products is something I want to do too. But again, you're only one person, so but it is good to have different. I mean, the thing that I always try to get across is, I mean, there's a lot of there's companies out there that need to create a product. There's a lot, like entrepreneurs and people out there that they want to start a company, and then they have to do all this investigation on, what kind of business should I start? How much is it going to cost me to get product? But when you're an artist and you can create your own products, you don't have to hire anyone to do that. And so use your skills to create something that you can sell and build a business off of. I mean, you've got something that a lot of people don't have. So use that to your advantage. And it doesn't, like, I have certain things that I kind of fall under my brand. And then I have certain things that are sort of adjacent to my brand, like the wax packs, I would consider that. And then I have some products that are just totally, like, I've got a bunch of coloring books that I've illustrated that are Amazon that I don't even mention because they don't have anything to do with my brand. But you can do all these little side things, and and I don't. For me, I haven't had any of these that are like super runaway successes, but they all add up, So
that's true.
Anyway, but just that, adding that thing and having that be successful and everything, and kind of figuring out, shipping, and it's interesting to me from a business standpoint to, like, oh, how can I make this work?
That's
and
huge.
Then learning how, and then getting to a point where, for the most part, I understand it now. I understand what it costs to make. I understand how long it takes. I understand, all that stuff. So yeah, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's cool. And it also sounds like it's become like much more efficient too. So it's like you're really,
the more
like,
you do it. When I first started, like, I had the idea to do these, and then I invested in a really nice printer, and then I got to the point where it wasn't the way I had thought that I was going to print these out, because they're relatively thick and there's like a back feeder through the printer, and it just wouldn't. It didn't print the way I wanted to. I'm like, oh geez, I don't know if I can actually do these. And then I figured, trial and error, I figured out a way to do it. And then, but all those little things, and now I've got, I've managed to figure out exactly how to do it. So where in the beginning, I was like, another thing, when I created the cards, like, I used to create the cards on the Cricut, which takes forever. And then I created like a template, and I've even talked to Cory about eventually getting to the point where I can get it like a die, which, but right now it takes less than a minute for me to cut up a set of cards and everything like that.
Yeah,
with this system I had. But before, it was getting them lined up and everything, and I had so much waste with the amount of pages that I printed out that were cut wrong or whatever. But getting to the point where you're like, okay, now I got it down, to the point where, like, whenever I wasted one, there were always some that would work. And whenever I ship out something, I have like these extras that I throw in to get like little samples of what other stuff I do. But to the point where I got so good at it that I don't have any of those extras anymore. So now I just have to print a whole sheet, a good sheet, and cut it up and put those as my extras. So it's kind of cool.
What's also, this is a good example of tying back to what Cory was talking about too, where, with the advancement, where you're kind of looking at the people in front of you and kind of moving forward. And then before you know it, you're kind of the person that other people are looking to.
Yeah.
This is what Scott was describing is exactly why, when Cory's talking to his students, he's saying, you're not really competing with a veteran, right? Or somebody who's in the industry for a long time. And that's part of why, like, if I were to start a wax pack company today, right, and I was trying to compete with Scott, we'd be in a different league, because Scott has learned all of these valuable lessons along the way. and streamline the process and become more efficient at it, right? And this will just continue, like, as he makes more and more of this, until before you know it, right, you're becoming an expert in this niche thing
Right.
that, like, anyone trying to dip into it would have to go through all those trials and errors, you know. And that's why, like, you know, expertise of like doing especially niche things like is very valuable, right? Because it's like you've learned a streamlined process. And if, for people who think that doesn't happen in industry, you know, it totally does, like on a massive scale. But it's the same thing, you know. Cory used to work for a guitar manufacturer. Find out about new guitar, like, I mean, Cory could probably talk about like building new guitars or like new templates instead of existing templates is a huge trial and error process with a lot of waste initially. And then there's a lot of streamlining before you can mainstream something that's going to go to retail, right? There's a lot of dialing it in before you kind of go to mass production. So I think that's really cool that, Scott, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Because that also is going to give you more time.
Yeah. The other thing is, and there's still ways to level up. There's still, you know, I can get other printers. I mean, right now I 100%. Take my stuff because I have a nice inkjet, but for the wax labels, you can't use inkjet. You have to use a laser printer. I don't have one, so I have to go to the copy store. So that's my next investment, is to get a good color laser printer. But, and the thing is, I've had videos that show how to do all this stuff, but even if you follow all of those, there's still so many aspects of doing that as a business that it's just, you know, there's still a huge learning curve, even though I pretty much show you how to make them. You know? So.
Well, and that's why, like, you know, as people who've been at it for a while, I don't think any of us feel too nervous, like, sharing things, because it's like, you know, it's not really complicated. You know what I mean?
Yeah, by the time somebody gets to where I am now, I'm already going to be 10, 20 steps ahead.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think we should get close to wrapping. So is there anything we didn't touch on that you guys, you know, wanted to say in regards to the theme of catching up or giving thanks? Anything we didn't touch on that's occurred since the last Artcasters, or are we good to?
Well, I definitely wanted to thank the chat. It's always it's always good to have them chiming in, and I don't know, I mean, throw in what you guys are thankful for in the chat.
Yeah, I would love to hear that. If you're watching this after the fact too, let us know what you're thankful for. I think collectively we're all very thankful for our audience. So, you know, it's a tight-knit group, the Artcasters crew, but we love you guys, and the support. Again, like, you know, it's amazing what, like, you know, one or two people kind of encouraging, you know, production of art, like, can do for an artist. So thank you guys for hanging in there. Jim said thankful for my wife, but I read it in the Borat voice for some reason. My wife. But I would agree with that. Thankful as well. I'm thankful for Jim's wife, because if it weren't for your wife, Jim, you would be a lunatic. Your wife keeps you grounded, and she's cool. All right, Cory. Anything you want to with the round of the thankfuls?
I'm thankful that people are interested in what's going on. It's always fun to have this little community that we've got. Cool. Good job, good family. You know, decent stability is nice. Health. I didn't have decent health for the last couple of years, so it's nice to be able to breathe again and not hurt and stuff. Yeah. So there's some good. You know,
I'm thankful for that too, Cory. I'm thankful that you're
matched
breathing without hurting.
I got my bench back up to what I was benching when I was 14. So not quite to where when I was 18 is what I would like to hit, but you know, like we're back to, like, from not being able to lift 20 pounds to, you know, putting up some weight again. So there's good stuff going on.
Is this a recent development? Because I think last time you kind of said that you were like out of shape and you hadn't been working out or whatever. So,
Yeah, I don't know when I said that, but I've been other than 2 weeks where I was kind of sick. I've been lifting a little bit for about 6 weeks. So,
Yes. Yeah, and
a little bit, not a lot, but yeah, I can put on some of the bigger plates now. So
that's exciting though. That's a huge advancement. And just thinking about like a year or so back, that's a big step. Yeah, yeah, I'm thankful to not have a long crazy commute. That would be like my last big one. That's been a huge like my mental health has been
oof.
I've been feeling like I'm swimming in time, even though I'm very busy, just because I'm getting back like 4 hours of my life every day. And that makes a huge difference. So I will say the thing that I've learned that I'm thankful for learning is that sometimes a paycheck just isn't worth it. Like, even if it's a significant difference in pay, it's just not worth, 4 hours of your life every day on top of a regular job. In my opinion, a younger me would be like, take the money. But older me is like, yeah, that probably isn't the best move. So, yeah, I'm thankful to have my life back a little bit there. All right, guys, let's close out with all this lovely thanks. We got thanks in the beautiful chat. Mydrin said, thank you, Cory, for reminding me I need to work out tonight. Me too, Cory. I need to work out. So I am thankful that you brought that up because I'm like a day overdue on my workout. Keeman said he's thankful for Scott, Josh, and Cory for keeping the Artcasters. Thank you, Keeman. Dylan said he's thankful that I'm breathing good and getting fit. Hey! What else? Christopher said, I'm thankful for my manager, my agent, and my excellent script, and Denzel Washington. I agree. I'd like to thank my grandparent. No, I'm just kidding. All right, guys. Be thankful. Thanks for coming on and catching this after Thanksgiving. Let's close out by letting people know where to find us. Cory, where can everyone read your beautiful and view your beautiful comic, and where can they check out the latest chapter of your wildly thought-provoking and awesome book?
Yeah, so if you want to read the book and go see if you can identify the line, I'll give some kind of prize. I don't know what it is. I'll send you a sticker or something. So the first person that can identify the line that I'm talking about in the most recent chapter of Heart of Eternity, I'll mail you a sticker. You can go to corykerr.com/book. And if you want to see all the cool stuff I'm doing with the comic and the different coloring techniques I'm using and interesting panel layouts and stuff, you can go to corykerr.com/rage. And that should take you there as well.
I love it. Find the line. Okay. Scott, Scott closes us out every time. All right. If you're on my channel, you know where to find me. Make sure you're subscribed. You've hit that bell to get notifications. We're doing independent art, so I would just encourage you guys to peruse JoshuaKemble.com, peruse Cory Kerr's site, peruse Scott's site, and maybe pick one thing up. Support some indie work. That would be my recommendation: is support independent work. Scott, where can everybody find your stuff, and how do they keep track of this crazy train that is the Artcasters?
Yeah, so for all the products that I have, both physical and digital, including my comic book Young and the Dead, you can go to my website at circworks.com. I also have a YouTube channel where my latest video that shows me creating this really cool, huge, I don't know how many times bigger than a regular playing card it is, but of Harley Quinn and Joker. And there's a little history about the Batman the Animated Series and all kinds of fun stuff that you can find in that video. So definitely check that out on my YouTube channel, as well as my backlog of thousands of videos, including my series Making Comics 101, most comprehensive free course on how to make comics anywhere. Definitely check all that stuff out. That's on my YouTube channel. And then this show, we do this show pretty much every single week, unless it's a holiday like it was last week. But but if you want to know where the next show is going to be, because it does rotate between the three of our hosts, and typically it can be the same time, but that can change too. You never know. Point is, just join our mailing list, and we will let you know before the show goes live, so you know exactly what channel it is, what time, everything, all that stuff. So just join us by, and we don't spam you or anything. All we do is usually about 30 minutes ahead of time, at least or so, we send out that invite and let you know where to find us. So join our mailing list just for that, just to be alerted.
I love it. And next week, Mr. Lujan owning the 444. Okay, make sure you guys tune in next week. We will see you guys later. And speaking of Mr. Lujan, it's only appropriate to end it how we began. Bye, guys.
This one goes out to the Artcasters. Ooh, Artcasters! I say you're catching your spell, Artcasters. Catching your spell. Ooh, you're gonna cast that spell. Strike a hell. Whoa!